Well, good morning, all. It's 9 o'clock somewhere. Welcome to the October meeting of the Computer Club. And we'll find out what trivia brings us today. I would hope that cybersecurity might be one of those topics. Now, I don't know about the Family Sexual Education Month, but class reunion month, I think we all have done some class reunions recently. And after the meeting, you can start the caffeine addiction recovery month. These are our topics for the day, and because we've got a lot of material, I'll move on. This is our balance sheet, and we are still solvent. Thank you very much. And we have a couple of announcements. I missed the slide, didn't I? The October meeting, obviously, you're at. And upcoming classes will be announced shortly. And if you're an Apple product user, which this meeting is focused more on phones and things like that, so Apple iPhones and actually Android phones will be able to use a lot of the tips and points that they make today because they're really replicating one another back and forth on their newest phones. And we continue to safely dispose of your idle or obsolete computers. And we have $15.99 membership. That was effective October 1. I think we're well over that now. And we welcome any of you newcomers to the meeting. How many are newcomers to this meeting today? I see several hands. Thank you very much. Another announcement we need is we have resumed our normal schedule over at Meadowview. And the parking lot is smooth. A couple of warnings that have popped up on my radar screen since our last meeting was Microsoft had announced a release of 1809 for Windows, and I would discourage you from trying to get that. They have actually withdrawn that. Pardon me? It's out there again. Oh, it's out there again? It's fixed. Have they fixed it? Oh, okay. Well, when I prepared the slides, they had it. Also, I wanted you to be aware of the fact that there is an Apple scam out there right now, and it was detected by KnowBe4, which is a security firm. And Apple Care, they call you or they email you about your Apple Care not being updated and all that kind of stuff, and they try to talk you into letting them control your computer. So the response is just hang up and delete the message, or hang up. The last thing is, obviously, you are all aware of the breach of Facebook about a month and a half, 2 months ago, of 69 million ID and personal information. That has proven not to be as extensive as they once thought, but it's still out there. So I guess it comes down to who do you trust anymore on the internet. The next item is I've got a couple of questions with regard to the go back one. Yeah, excuse me, you're right. Anyway, that essentially the board has made a decision to start implementing fee schedules for this room on Saturdays. And we plan to comply with that beginning with our fiscal year next year. Until that time, we're sort of in limbo. But I also wanted to follow up with that with some questions on implementation. And those are that if you do have conflicts with our Saturday meeting, I'd like for you to let me know if you have perceived conflicts, if we were to shift to a morning meeting during the week, Monday through Friday, we don't know what day, in 2020, then I'd like to know that as well. There's usually Sun City trips, there's other meetings, whether it's scrimmage or bridge or pinochle or whatever. And if you work, you wouldn't be able to come to a morning meeting. So I don't know how many of those conflicts would render you unable to come to a weekday meeting, but I'd like to have a show of hands. If all of those things existed, how many of those would you not be able to come Monday through Friday?
Okay, describe the problem with the 4 month.
Oh, John was pointing out that we can get this room on Saturday, but it's only in a 4-month progressive window. So if we get the room assigned to us for January, February, March, April, 4 months, then we have those 4 locked up. But Jameson's has prior right to this room for weekend commissary services. So if they have a party or a golf outing or whatever, they can exempt us from using this room. So that is actually why you'll see down at the schedule on point 3 that in fact in May we will be moving this meeting in 19 1 week forward because Jameson's has a already pre-booked reservation for that month. Actually, it's a band. The band concert is that month. And then there's also potentially a conflict in September as well. Anyway, it's a 4-month moving window, so we never can have this room for a specific date locked up for the entire year based on the contract that the association has with Jameson's. And rightfully so. That's a revenue stream that's certainly larger than our revenue stream would provide them. So that's the reason for that. Anyway, so I'm back to my original question. How many of you would not be able to come to a weekday meeting because of other conflicts? Wow. Well, okay, yeah, I guess we can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so those of you that would not be able to make a Monday meeting? Wow. You can sleep up on Sunday, so you can. Okay, Tuesday. About the same number. Wednesday. Oh, a lot more. That's not good. That's tennis. Thursday. Friday. Okay, so how many of you can't come on Saturday? Okay, I got the message.
What about the big room in the back?
I'm sorry, no, the Meadowview, or excuse me, the Birch Room. It's not, number one, it's not conducive to this size group. This is the only room that really accommodates this size group. And you can expand that, but then you blind people from the screen. So they wouldn't be able to see any of the visuals, and it would be much more crowded. We wouldn't be able to have tables, it would be only seating. And so that's the difficulty with trying to work through this. Okay. Club matters. The iPhone is being talked about today. And now we'll have training.
Thanks, Dave. Well, first of all, I'm going to apologize for the fact that we canceled the meeting or the classes in September, but we didn't have a choice. They said that the Meadowview was closed. It really wasn't worth all the effort to try to move it to other rooms. Too confusing. But The instructors came through and we actually had nine classes scheduled for October, and 4 of them we've already had. And I'll just run through it really quickly because today you're going to be receiving an email, and it's going to be reminding you of the classes that are still available through October. And those classes are photos with iPhone and iPad, and really, the 2 bills are going to go into what you can do with your photos with your phone. Because constantly we have people come in and say, well, I've got this picture on my phone, I want to put it on my computer, I want to put it on my pad. You'll be able to get that information from the guys coming up, actually Monday. It's coming up pretty quick. And then Sun City website. You know, we keep talking about going into our website. You know, we got the place, the calendar is really neat now. You can click on the calendar and show when we have our classes. Well, how many of you have never been on the Sun City website? That's pretty good. Joe, you're gonna, hey, you may not have anybody to talk to. But you still have to log on and get into our website. And there's other items on our website. I mean, I like to talk about lynda.com, where you can get a lot of information with videos through the library. And if you have a question, many times rather than Google it, you can just go and get a YouTube video, or excuse me, a lynda.com video. And it could be a YouTube, but these are clean ones. So just kind of remember that's available on our website. We're also going to have Google Docs. And that's where you can process stuff with your phone. I don't know much about it, but that's going to be coming up on the 25th. And then Android phones. So I really am happy with the instructors. Steve and both Bills are doing a lot of work with the phones and the tablets, because it seems like we notice in the lab we're hardly getting anybody bringing a desktop in. Laptops are starting to dwindle, but definitely tablets and phones are not. And also then for November, I've got 5 classes right now, and you just keep watching these notifications coming out on the weekend. I know Jim and Jim's really doing a good job getting these notifications out on a weekly basis. And once again, if you can't remember and you don't get it on there, go to our website, because that's all put on the calendar. Joe has this new system where you can just click on it, tells you the time, the date, and I'm not sure if it's the instructor or not, but it tells you a little bit about the class. So hopefully you'll continue coming to the classes. They've been fairly well attended, not quite as well as it was in the winter, but as it gets colder, there's less things to do outside, and we'll be, I'm sure, seeing more people. If you have some classes that you'd like to have us offer, let me know, and if I can come up with an instructor and we get enough interest, we'll try to present that class. Thanks.
FYI, Ralph, Google Docs, people are getting it on their computers because that's the way people are sending things. So it's a word processing type of process. I gave a talk a couple of months ago about how to get onto the website that Ralph referenced to. And I wound up with more questions on people that really have issues with the website on how to go around. There's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of administration people for clubs, which I interface with, that don't even understand what's out there. They're putting stuff on their website that's available to everybody in the community, so they're wasting time and space. I'm going to talk about, for the user's point of view only, what's available on the website and how to get to it. The only thing that's required, the class will be on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock over in the computer lab. The only thing you need to have to come there, if you want to bring your computer, fine, because then you can set it up, is know your password, know your sign-in. If you have an issue with that, I have these cards, and I'll be in the back of the room, and you can pick one of these up, so at least you can come, so you can get into the system, either on our computer or your own computer. We didn't put up the, yeah, this is the sign, and it says log in. Go to the next one. Okay, these 2 colored boxes, that's where you put in your member's number, okay, which is that thing that's on the back of your card, and the password that was created. If you were in the old system, it may be the same, it's probably the same. You have the option to change that. We can talk about that on Wednesday. And once you do that, it takes you into the rest of this side of the website, so you're into the login. Okay? Thank you.
Next up, we have a few comments by Jim Nelson.
Well, I don't have any slides, I'm sorry to say, but I hope you're all familiar with the newsletter that we put out every month. And if you're not receiving it, and there's a great number that are not, it's the recorders say somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 75 people are not receiving the newsletter. If you're not receiving it, please let me know. We'll do what we can to get it back in play, but we can't guarantee it. So some of the folks that have done it in the past have tried without good results. We found one way to overcome it, and I do this 2 times every month. As soon as I get them, I send it to 2 other guys, a guy and a gal. Sorry, Jerry, you're the guy. So if you're not receiving the newsletter, if you let us know, we'll try to work with you and either get it fixed or to find out a way to get it transferred to you. And Ralph mentioned the training class program that will be going out today, and it'll begin with the 15th or Monday class through the rest of the month, and then we'll put it out one more time for the closing of the month. And our goal would be to put that out regularly so that you're always being alerted to what's coming up in the week to follow. So I guess that's it, unless there are any questions about it. I'll be here after the meeting if you'd like to talk about it then. Thanks.
One other enunciation pathway for the classes, etc., is they do show up on our monitors. One is in the window of the computer lab in Meadowview, and one is down here by the Hickory room in this pavilion. And by the way, I neglected to mention a thank you to the PhotoSig group for all the pictures that were the intro while we were having coffee and donuts. They do a really magnificent job on monitoring our great surroundings around here. This, I think, was out at the Railroad Museum in Union. Okay, so the community bulletin is up, and I just wanted to remind you that if you are a volunteer in another club, etc., or this one, register for volunteer appreciation on October 30, and there's a lunch and a dinner on that date. The board meetings that are coming up are those listed on the 24th of October. There will be none in November, but then they will resume on the 5th of December in this room. There's also one other announcement, and that was the showcase, consumer showcase is on October 25th, and that's in this lodge. Today's presentation is by the duo of Bill Zaletti and Bill Fritz, and it's going to tell you all you need to know, hints, pointers, and tips about your phone. One other comment is, when Ralph mentioned that there were fewer and fewer desktops, well, I just recently bought a desktop, so I'm an anomaly apparently.
Flip phone
Bill?
or a dinosaur.
Oh, I'm a dinosaur. Okay, got it. So, Bill, take it away.
In the button. What do you do with this? Press it forward. Got it.
Sorry about that. I had to have a little quick training session on this new button we got. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our meeting. Unfortunately, Bill had to leave. He wasn't feeling well today, so you've got one Bill, not two. Bill and I spent some time talking about this. We just finished a class on Monday on how to use your iPhone, very specific topics. And we split that class up between basics on the iPhone and also on the photo part of it into two different classes, because if we tried to do it all in one class, the class would be too long. And as you probably know, if you stay too long in a class, you're going to get saturated with knowledge, and all of a sudden you'll forget everything you learn. That's one of the things we're still working on with the iPhone, and I think probably the Android phones too. And that is, when you walk away from a class, you should feel like you learned one or two things and not a whole plethora of information that we try to provide in those classes. And the phones or devices that we talk about, the iPhones, the iPads, etc., you need to get into a rhythm of what you want to use these devices for. What we're there to do is to help you enhance what you already are planning to do, not try to create some new event for you. So today, in my presentation, we're going to have just a little fun with iPhone and iPads and talk about the different things we can do. Everything I talk about today on iPhone and iPad is transferable to Android. I looked up a couple of weeks ago, and there are roughly 1 million applications available on an iPhone, and they're roughly, or iPad, and there are roughly 3 million applications available on an Android device. The reason that there's such a disparity between those two devices is you cannot put an app on an iPhone until it runs through Apple, and Apple certifies it and makes sure that it is free of any kind of bugs or problems with it, and that it does function as it was intended to. With the Android, it's an open environment type of system, open platform. So people can write Android applications, shoot them up to Google, and pop, Google puts them out there for you to be able to use. That is one of the main differences between these systems. So everything I talk about today, I'm going to focus on iPhone and iPad, but just think in your mind, if you're not an iPhone or iPad, I'm going to ask you, how many people in here don't use either an iPhone or iPad? Okay, it's okay. We forgive you. Seriously, the one reason that I moved to the iPhone, I was a major Android user, and I still think Android is a great platform. And the only reason I moved to it is because I have 3 grandchildren, and all of them like to use FaceTime, and I couldn't do it with the Android. So I was forced into the iPhone, but now that I've gotten into it, I do like it. It is a nice platform to use. The things we're going to talk about today is what is an iPad used for? What is an iPhone? What is it really designed for? New features that are out in iOS 12. For those of you who have iPhones in here, has anybody not upgraded to iOS 12 so far? Okay, if you have an older device, you will not be able to go up to iOS 12 if it's prior to a Model 6. iPhone 6, you will not be able to go up to iOS 12. They prevent one thing that Android and Apple do as well, is they will not bring a phone up or not bring an operating system into a device that device mechanically cannot handle. So if the chipset is not capable of handling that particular new operating system, then they won't allow that device to operate to it. And I found 18 inspiring and unusual uses for an iPhone I thought were kind of unique today. So what is an iPad? Well, we talked about that briefly, just for a few minutes here. A lot of people are moving from a computer platform to a mobile device that you can walk around your house. You can leave your house and go anywhere. Most of these devices are connected to Wi-Fi. So if you're at any location where there's a Wi-Fi connection available, you can use it. The most frequent uses for these are for iPad in particular, or for surfing the internet, for doing your email, for playing games on it, or using it with other applications, etc. So people are finding that these mobile devices are easy to move around, they're lightweight, they're thin, If they're small enough and you have a purse, if you're a female, you can carry a purse. I regret that America has not gone to man purses. I keep looking for one. I can't find one. I've got so much junk to carry around with me now that I'd like to have something larger than a pocket, but we just can't get there yet in America. But you can put these things in it and have one central place to carry everything that you use. An iPhone, to contrast that, is a smaller device. It's obviously much smaller that you carry around, but it can actually duplicate everything that you do on the iPad. It's just that for convenience sake, the iPad is much easier to read, obviously larger print. And most iPads are not connected to your mobile service, whereas the iPhones almost exclusively are connected to your mobile service. Now, you can connect an iPad to a mobile service, but you'll pay a monthly fee for it. Or you can set your phone up as a hotspot so that anytime you're in an area where you don't have Wi-Fi, you can connect your iPad to your iPhone and use it like a Wi-Fi position. That's what a hotspot is. It really creates a Wi-Fi availability to you. So the most popular apps that I came across, I don't know how many of these you use, but the most popular apps that we used on iPhones in this past year, 2017, you can see them, and I think they're actually in order of what they were used for. Now, Bitmoji, I don't know if anybody in here uses that. I don't, but it's kind of a fun thing. A lot of people like to use it. It's when you're sending out messages or something, you can create funny little things in it. You can take your face and make it kind of, messed up or whatever, but it's something that's kind of interesting to do. If you look on the right-hand side, there's an application called WhatsApp. Outside the United States, that's the most popular platform for people to communicate with one another. We use messaging in the United States. And we use Instagram and the likes of those, but WhatsApp is the most popular one outside the United States. I recently had an opportunity to talk to a couple of folks who live in England. They're actually missionaries, and they were again talking to our church recently, and they don't even use messages as we do in this country. WhatsApp is the most popular way for them to communicate. New features in iOS 12. How many of you have started using some of the new features in iOS 12? Okay, the one that I really like that I've got turned on right now is Do Not Disturb. I really like that one because you just flip it, scroll up from the bottom, you hold your finger on the little Do Not Disturb symbol, and I said, do not disturb me while I'm at this location. If there's an emergency, I have people in my favorites that allow those phone calls to still come through, but I've informed everybody that's in that list this morning that I'm doing a presentation, don't call me unless I really need to be called. So, but it's a neat feature. FaceTime, I haven't tried the multiple user FaceTime yet, but that's something that's also a lot of fun, as you probably know. All of a sudden I lost the term. What is it that we use instead of FaceTime on the
Skype.
Skype, thank you. Skype. Skype has had multiple Skype session capability in there for a couple of years, I think. And FaceTime was behind the curve on that. So now you can do multiple session FaceTime where you can have, I think they set up to 30 or 31 people. If you try to do that on one of these phones, everybody's gonna have a box about the size of your little fingernail. So I don't think you want to try that many, but you probably could try it on your iPad and have a dozen or so. I don't do anything with anybody in here do augmented reality. That's kind of a fun thing to do. I don't do anything with it, but that's mostly for the younger folks. Okay. These are some of the things I want to talk about today. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I have a slide on each one of them, and we'll talk about them individually. On the health one, surviving an earthquake. I thought this was a pretty cool one that I found. And it's a gentleman, his name is Dan Woolley, I think. He's a producer, and he was caught in an earthquake, and apparently the building collapsed around him, but he was able to scramble out. And when he did, he was injured, and he had this app at the bottom here. It says Pocket First Aid on his device. and it helped him know what to do at that time based on his injuries. Also, it set an automatic timer up for him that kept him awake because he didn't want to fall asleep and go into shock. So I thought this was a pretty cool little app. Now, I don't know, I've not pulled it up and put it on my phone, but I thought it was something interesting if we wanted to consider it. A baby monitor. Now, not many of us in this room have babies, but probably most everybody in this room has grandchildren. And this is one that my son and daughter-in-law use extensively with two different devices. They, when their children were born, they got them an iPod instead of an iPhone, and they set it up for them, and they leave the iPod in the room that performs the same function that you see on the screen, and that is when the child awakes, it alerts them on their phone, and they can go look at. They also have cameras in there to monitor and see what's going on to watch the child as well. Warm up your hands. This is a cute one, but I warn you, if you try it, you're going to run your battery down pretty quick. And this is obviously something that's going to drain your battery. But if you happen to be caught out in cold, looks like those days are coming pretty quickly, and you need to warm your hands up, that's the little app you can put on your phone to do that. A music DJ. This basically, how many of you use your phones for music? I do. I like that. That's a nice feature of the iPhone or the Android, all of them. Well, this one allows you to use a DJ type function where you can sort the music even more extensively than the standard app that you have on your phone. I know you can set the app to random, and if you've got 600 songs in there, it'll randomly bring the songs. This one allows you to sort things in different orders, etc. It's a pretty neat little app as well. Guitar tuner. Do we have any guitar players in here? No guitar players. Oh, where's the wood shop? Wow. We have a number of guitar players in the wood shop, and some of them build their own guitars there, which is kind of neat. But this is one that actually my granddaughter just started L'Oreal. I'm kind of proud of that, of course. And she is a major guitar player, a self-taught guitar player, and she has this on her phone, and she's an Android user. And it really works nicely for her to keep her guitar in tune. And of course, when she plays different music, I don't know anything about guitar playing, so I'm going to have to be a little cautious here. But I know that when she plays different types of music, I've encouraged her to play some classical music for me. She has to change the tension on all the strings in order to do that, and then retune the guitar. And she uses this app to do that. I've always found that fascinating. And when I saw this, I thought this is a pretty cool little app. Bill, who couldn't stay with us today, is a piano tuner. I don't think he did that for a living. I think that's a hobby for him. But he has a piano tuning app on his iPhone. It's $1,200, the one he's got. It's a pretty extensive one. But he enjoys tuning pianos, so that's a pretty good one. Locate a thief. How many of you that have the iPhone have the location turned on and have it turned on with another person, like a member of the family or whatever, so you know where they are? Does everybody use that feature? Okay, I'll tell you a little quick story about that. This one you can read for yourself on the screen. But I was with a couple in Alabama 2 years ago, and we went out to a restaurant, and they like to look at their iPhones a lot more than I do. But she was looking at her iPhone when we walked to the car. She thought she stuck it in her pocket, and we pulled away from the parking place. We were about a mile or so down the road, and she realized she didn't have her iPhone. And she looked at her husband. She said, "Do you know where my iPhone is?" And he pulled it out and he looked it up. He said, "Yeah, it's still at the restaurant." She said, "Well, I had it when I walked out of the restaurant." We drove back, and there it was laying in the parking lot. And luckily, no one had run over it. It was still working properly. But this Locate a Thief is another little app that allows you to know if someone has taken your phone, exactly where that phone is. Of course, if it hasn't been turned off or the battery hasn't drained down. But this particular situation allowed them to find that phone and also find the person who took the phone. Blood alcohol concentration calculation. I don't think this is a biggie, but this is not one that you can breathe into. It's not a breathe into device, but it allows you, based on probably I didn't look up all the characteristics, but I would say probably if you're taking certain medications, but certainly based on your age and your weight and your height and whatever, it'll tell you how many drinks you can have before you have a problem. Control your house. I don't believe I need to speak a lot more about that. We've talked about this subject in here several times. You probably get a lot of ads on your computer about this a lot. Certainly ComEd has been running a lot of ads recently about control, particularly on your thermostat, but also most of the new garage door openers that you buy today have the capability of putting an app on your phone, and you can open the garage door even before you get there, in addition to having it on your car. Rent a car. I had not seen this one before. This was brand new to me. But US, Canada, and UK, now you can put this app on your phone, you can rent the car, and you go straight to the car rental lot, and it actually allows you to access the car without even having a key. And you can just get into the car and start to drive it away. It tracks everything that's going on. When you get back to the rental car company with your phone, you just go up to the counter, boom, it'll tell you what your charges are, etc. I mean, obviously you make reservations through this, so you'll know quite a bit about it. In addition to that, you can also set this up. I think I got the separate app on that one, but this is a pretty cool little app, I thought, for renting a car. And then the second one is Car Key. One of my friends at the wood shop actually uses this app. He has this on his phone for his car. I haven't tried this. I think I'm gonna try this for my Toyota. But it also tells you at the bottom of this, don't leave home without your key, like your credit card, whatever, because you never know when you're going to be in a zone where the key won't work on it. So, but it's still something that's interesting. Remote access to your PC. This just allows you to access the PC from your iPhone. And if you wanted to do some sort of action like, hey, I forgot to send something or do something on my PC, I'd like to have that run, like you might want to run a backup and you forgot to do it, you're away from your home, you can access your PC and say, yeah, go ahead and start my backup while I'm away. But this is a pretty neat little device. I'm pretty sure it says it'll work for either PC or Mac, so you can do it on either device. Remote mouse, if you don't want to carry a mouse around with you, but you have a laptop and you have your phone, you can put this remote mouse on there and it'll allow you to use your phone as a mouse. That's a pretty cute little thing. A couple of folks in the computer club actually have that on their phones, and I was watching somebody demonstrate it the other day. That's pretty neat. Cooking guide, probably something I would be mostly interested in. My wife and I both, because we oftentimes run out of ideas what to fix at home at night. Sometimes you just want to try something new. Well, this cooking guide allows you to pull up something that's unique and unusual. This is cooking guides. How many of you have used cooking guides before since computers have been out? Yeah, I used to use these a lot when I was in the Boy Scouts, when I was a scout leader. We didn't have computers. When I was a Boy Scout, let's see, we didn't have telephones, did we? Oh, no, you didn't. But as a scout leader, we were always trying to come up with some new and unique ideas. And I used to take a laptop to the meetings with the boys, and we would sit down and try to come up with some different things that we wanted to serve at this, or fix, not serve, but fix at this particular camp out. And I always found these type of apps to be a lot of fun to work with. They weren't apps in those days. We would just go out to the internet and look things up. Paint, this is sort of an unusual one that allows you to, in this case, it gives you an example of the New Yorker, but you could create some sort of a picture, and then you could use this paint application to change landscape, change things on the picture, and then print this and post it or do whatever you want to with it. That's sort of a neat little app if you want to try it. Is it time to leave? I went to a concert the other day, and it was really interesting. There was a person on the front row that their phone kept ringing, and the entertainers finally went over and said, would you please talk to that person and let us share it with everybody in the room? So I thought that was kind of cute. Desk calendar, the opportunity to set up your phone and have like a desk calendar on the phone itself is sort of unique. It suggests that instead of just setting it on the counter, that you might want to just put it in a little cradle so you can always see it when it's sitting on your desk. But this would be a little bit larger calendar than you normally would have on your phone. Metal detector. There are several of us in the wood shop that when you're in the wood shop and you bring wood in, particularly if it's old wood, if you're using antique type of products in there, that we require that you use a metal detector to check for any kind of metal before you run it through any of our tools, because obviously it will chip any of the devices that we have in there. And I thought this was a pretty unique one you can put on your phone and actually run it across the wood before you would bring it into the shop. Speedo is not what it implies. Not many of us in this room would like to try that product anymore. But this one really talks about, it's a German application that talks about speed. It really works with your GPS device, and it's talking about the speed and the height and different information that you'd like to know about as you're driving around in a certain area that maybe you're not familiar with, elevations, height, elevations, etc. Spirit level. This is something I think iOS, before iOS 12, put a level on our phones. Has anybody here used the level on your phone yet? Yeah, I've used that quite a bit. That is quite a nice little device on your phone. And this one is a more enhanced one that you can put on there and do different things with. I've just used it for going up and level, and you just turn the level on and set it on top of things that I might be working on somewhere to see if it's completely level. But it's a nice little device, nice little tool. And we're up to, well, you put the question mark in for me, didn't you think? We're up to questions. Wow. Yes.
What's the average cost on them?
You know, the question is, what's the average cost on those apps? I looked a couple of them up, and they range from $1.99 up to, I think the highest one I saw was $30. So it just depends. And a couple of them had both a free and a paid version. So you can have either.
I have two questions. On the remote computer, does your computer at home have to be on to use that?
The answer is yes, it would have to be on to use that.
And the second question is, with the metal detector, can you use that like on the beach to find diamond rings and things?
That's a good question. That's a good question, but I don't know the range of it. The ones the metal detectors that I'm familiar with that we use in the wood shop has to be pretty close to the product itself, at least within 6 inches of it. So I don't know if you could hold it up and walk around the beach. Be something to try. If it's a free app available to you, it'd be something to try.
The sand on the beach is not too good for your phone.
No, I wouldn't lay it down on the phone.
There's the water.
Yeah. Well, the water, yeah, I'll think about the water. I mean, all the newer phones, I have an iPhone 7 now, and all the later ones are waterproof. They're not for diving with, but if you do drop them in water, they won't be damaged. You can pull them out pretty quickly. I think almost all of the phones have gone to that now.
Question. Is that car key thing available on Android?
Yes, it is available on Android.
What's the name? You know?
I just look up car key.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, if you can't, good question. If you can't find some of the things that I'm talking about this morning, try them out on your own. Just go and search for them by name. But if you can't, come into the computer club and we'll see if we can find them for you, with you. Okay. Other question over here? I see one. Yep, in the back.
Maybe it's just a question about whether or not you can use iPad for text messaging. I've been doing it, and I don't understand quite how that works. I'm on Wi-Fi, but if my iPad is not connected or is not able to get satellite.
Are you saying your iPad does not work with message, or it does work?
It does work with text.
Okay, well, if you're on Wi-Fi, it's going through, it's the same thing as if you're on your phone, it's still going to the cloud.
Okay, I've also heard the thing ring, and it doesn't, that surprised me that it's ringing because that really comes satellite, but I guess it comes Wi-Fi.
Okay, you brought up a good question. If you have an iPad and an iPhone, those two, it sounds like you do. My wife has an iPad and an iPhone. And when we're at home and the iPad is connected to a Wi-Fi device and our phone rings, the iPad also rings. And you can use the iPad as a phone. You can actually answer the phone call on the iPad. And it's a phone call, it's audio, not video. So it's just working through the Wi-Fi though. But if you're outside of Wi-Fi, then the iPad won't work.
If I understand his question, the reason that he can text, did you say?
Text.
Text on the iPhone is because you're with other iPhone users. You cannot send a text to an Android person on your iPad.
Thank you for clarifying. You are correct. Messaging and texting are two different things. Thanks for clarifying that. Messaging only works with another Apple user, whereas texting will work with both Android and iPhone. Not on the iPad. I said that's messaging, that's not texting. Yeah, so let's separate these two. Messaging. Messaging is available on the iPad, okay? It looks like, feels like, operates like a text, but it will not go across platforms, meaning it won't go from Apple to Android. Texting, on the other hand, you can go to either one, okay? Or the phone. You don't text on an iPad, you message on an iPad. You message on a iMac. You message on those, you don't text. That's the difference between them. Even though on your iPhone it says message, it's using the term messaging, it is different. It's a texting versus a messaging concept. I will tell you also that I have experienced this when I'm on a cruise and I turn my iPhone onto or airplane mode. When I turn my iPhone on to airplane mode and then I connect to the Wi-Fi, now my iPhone has messaging only capabilities, which means it will only message to another Apple device. It will not message at that point to an Android. And so it's operating like an iPad at that point. Other questions? Yes.
I have a 5 series phone and obviously need to get a new one. Do you suggest what level I should go up to?
It's all about money. One of the big differences between the 10, or if you have a 5, so 5, 6, 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8 all use the home button. The minute that you go into the 10, the iPhone 10, you've lost your home button. So the learning curve on a 10 is going to be greater than if you stepped up to a device less than 10, such as a 7. I believe 7s and 8s are still available. If you look for reused phones, you can still find a 6. I wouldn't recommend a 6, but 7 and 8 would be okay for you. But just know that if you want to, that's just for anybody. If you move up, how many of you have an iPhone 10? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. And I have not played with one, so I don't know all the characteristics of it. I know in our class, some people who come in iPhone 10s, some of the things we talk about in the class are quite different in the way you operate them. So, my suggestion is go to a store and try out the different ones and see what you think.
Bill, how many of these apps that you talked about today would be workable on an Android?
All of them. All apps that you see today on an Apple will be available on Android. I think people that build these apps typically will build them for multiple platforms. But like I said, they have to go through quite a bit of scrutiny on the Apple to get it out to the Apple versus the Android.
Slide up, one up. What, you went the wrong way? Here, okay, when you leave,
Oh, wait a minute, I'm not finished?
no, I'm
Okay.
still here. You got just.
Bye, everyone.
Before you leave, you don't want anybody running out without getting their ability to get the free toner cartridges we have in the back. A lot of people bring in, you know, you gotta buy a new computer, and they have the
Printer.
3 or 4 cartridges laid at home that are new. They bring them into the lab. They're in the back room. You can look through the pile and see if you have any. Also, come into the computer club and ask about them if you don't get them today. But I'd really like you to look through the pile and see if there's any in there, because it's getting too big a pile.
Yeah, we need to get rid of the ones that we're not.
Okay, back to Bill. Any
Okay,
questions?
anything else? Thank you very much, everyone.
Don't forget, if you're not getting the newsletter, please contact Jim Nelson. And he's got his hand up in the air, or did. Now it's up again. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. Have a good day.